If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died,
Good afternoon,
who gave that right to
Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of the show is Voices Not Yet Heard. First of all, let me apologize for these glasses. I had eye surgery on Monday, and I tried to sit under these, and they started. I knew I shouldn't, so I have to wear these. So anyway, accept my apologies. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be cool. Heck, I am cool.
You are cool.
I'm already cool.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I like it. I'm thinking, man, let's just make that permanent.
anyway, I want to go to this. I don't know how many of you saw the congressional softball game in Washington, D.C. last night, or excerpts from it, but there was one very, very touching and emotional moment, and I'd like to start the show with that. So take a look at this. Was that touching or not? That was just absolutely beautiful. I just love that. You know, I got Mr. Miguel back here with me today, and I'm real happy about that, because he's going to tell us something that and he told me this, and I'm just going to go on and tell on him right now. He told me this. He said, you won't hear anywhere else. So right here, ladies and gentlemen, first time heard on Voices Not Yet Heard. Gary, talk to us. Tell us what's going on.
Well, Ray, first off, that was unbelievable what happened with that congressional baseball game.
Wasn't it?
I mean, who would
Wasn't
ever
it?
imagine something like that would happen? And but it did, and it's a wake up. And who kind of summarized it best was Sheriff Clark.
Oh, what did he say about it? I missed
on
that.
the video, and he goes right to the head of this kind of thing. There's no
He always
pussyfooting
does.
around, which
He always does. He's a straight shooting guy.
Well, it's a violence and a violent and a vile and an evil, and we don't like to think that we have people like that in this country, especially when it's embraced by an entire political party in terms of some of their members, not all.
Yeah.
But it's embraced.
No, I know that. I agree with you.
And who would ever think that we'd have or come to a point of one of our political parties would be of such that would condone this kind of violence and well,
I'm going to tell you
rhetoric?
something. Here's what I think.
It's terrible.
You know, and beautiful
Yeah.
point. Here's what I think, and you know, it has nothing to do with the election. It has something to do with economics. Let's face it. It has something to do with the special interest groups losing all that money.
Of course.
You know.
And it has to do with the people that are losing all that money, having the money and the power to influence a group of people that basically could come down to individuals to the point, and you can call it brainwashing, indoctrination, or whatever you want to call it, to the point that they will actually condone that particular type of activity. As sick as it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's as sick as the people have got. It can be influenced that way. And that's the real danger.
It is dangerous.
You know, I've said this in kind of a joking way, but then again, it really is not a joke. Let me tell you, right here in our country, we have a group of people, and it's represented by a party called Democrat Party, and it's represented by a class of people called liberals, left-wing liberals. They pose more danger than ISIS. And the reason being, ISIS is very small and localized.
And
These people
are
are right
huge
here
everywhere.
next to you
I know,
everywhere.
I know.
And you don't know when one will go off. And to think that words don't mean something, people are saying word freedom of speech. They might as well be saying fire in a theater. Words do mean something.
Sure they do.
And that's a responsibility that people need to understand. That when they speak, the word that they're using, it has having an adverse negative effect on a group of people who are mentally not capable of understanding the difference between words and the
I know. We're
deeds.
talking about and there's a lot of them out there, the followers.
Well, sure,
You know,
and if you can create that kind of an environment, that's a dangerous
sure
thing.
it is.
And so, what it brings me to is this.
That's what happened in Germany.
Exactly. Well, it's
Yeah.
happened in Germany.
Yeah.
It's happened in
Yeah.
Russia. It happened
Yeah.
everywhere. That a
Yeah.
communist has taken over. It happened in Cuba and so
Yeah.
forth. Okay, and people don't so many people don't realize the severity of that, and they kind of pass it off. Pass it off as well. That's just freedom of speech, or that's politically correct, and yada yada. That's all it is yada yada. But it's dangerous, and it's damaging, and it's being proven over and over again, and more people are waking up. Okay, now put yourself in this condition. We all have friends and relatives who are Democrats. Now, are those people vile, evil? No.
No, not at all.
Are they violent? No. They're just people that believe a certain thing, right?
Sure.
And that's a separation from who their party is. Now, are there members in that party that are vile, that are evil, that are violent? Absolutely. And they happen to be the biggest voice because they're also vocal. And
That makes sense.
And so we have a lot of people who are aligned with that, unbeknownst or unwilling, I put it that way, is that so they go into a different classification even though they're the same party.
Mm-hmm.
They go into a classification of gullible, naive, indoctrinated, and I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care how big your IQ is or how great your IQ is. That has nothing to do with common sense.
No, it doesn't. Nothing at all.
And we tend to attach some kind of credibility to people who have, say, 170 IQ or 150 IQ, or have a bunch of degrees on the wall, or they're professors or doctors of this and doctors of that. Ray, those people may or may not have a lick of common sense.
Well, I understand that.
Okay, now let's just go along with that. Then I'm going to bring it to something I understood at the time. It was kind of a shock to me.
Okay.
But when I went into pilot training, military fighter pilot, okay, I thought, well, you got to be super smart and you got to be, IIQ and all this. So I get in there, and I happen to be with a class of a lot of academy. In fact, basically, they're all pretty much all academy grads of some kind, right? Well, they had to qualify to go to the academy, so they're in the super bracket already. And some of them were brilliant, engineers and this and that. They couldn't fly the airplane. And they washed out. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
I'd sit there and I'd see a guy wash out, and my God, he was like number 6 or 7 in his class in the academy.
Yeah.
and he knew he was an engineer or something like that, and he had this. Oh man, he's just as smart, and he was, but he couldn't fly the airplane because he didn't have common sense.
Yes.
He wasn't wise. So you could be smart, you can be.
Oh, that's been proven thousands of
but
times.
you
You're
may
absolutely
not be
right.
wise. And so when I look at it this way, what if I was a liberal right now? What if I was one? And I'm seeing what's going on. Would I have the common sense to say, wait a minute, this is not right. There's something going on here. I may or may not have, right? I may be sitting here with all kinds of degrees on the wall, and I'm looking at it, and you're talking to me, and I'm going to ask I'd have to sit there one night at some point and say, geez, do I have enough common sense to realize that there's something wrong? And that something wrong just may be me. What am I doing with this?
Well, I think that happens all the time. Maybe not as frequently as we'd like for it to happen, but I think.
But I think it's
starting
happening at an exponential rate now.
to. Do you?
Well, I mean, when I say that, I mean, how would you feel if you've been, you was a Democrat, I was a Democrat, all our families were Democrats
So we're
before
talking
then.
50 years ago.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you had
yeah.
enough common sense to
Yes.
figure out there's something wrong, didn't
Yeah.
you? I mean, at the time, wasn't it? Didn't you have to think a little bit
Well,
about changing?
I think what happens with a lot of, and when I was in college and came home and went out to get a job, that things were a little bit different when you were getting that paycheck and they were taking that out. You started thinking, where does this go and where does this go and who is that FICA guy anyway? You know?
Well, you don't become conservative till you got something to conserve.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm an advocate of home ownership. At least you got something.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have to give them that home, it's their home, and
Yeah.
then, And but I think there's a rude awakening for a lot of people. I know if I was on the other side right now, maybe I'm on the fence yet. This stuff is pulling me. I mean, just right and left off that fence. I'm starting to put some common sense to it, and I say, no, wait a minute. Now think about this. The Democrats try to represent themselves, which actually comes out to be the dependency party. Right? They're the takers.
Oh yeah.
Okay, then you have the producers on this other side. Okay, now I look at it as okay, am I a really a Republican? No, not necessarily. In the sense that I don't go along with the Republicans that are in that deep state, the establishment elite and stuff. They're just as big as robbers as the they're the uniparty,
Sure.
right? So then when I get down to that, and I say to myself, I says, well, wait a minute, I'm on this side. I'm not on that side. When I say this side, I'm talking about Republican or conservative or whatever you want to call that. I'm certainly not on this other side. Now let's look at some differences that are starting to come out to where very easy to see. Sometimes it's gray for a reason, right? Well, let's talk about the word political correctness. Did you hear that when you were in school?
No.
Neither did I.
No.
Did you hear that when you was in college?
No.
I hadn't either. Political correctness.
It's what they call a now word.
It's a now word, but
Yeah,
let me
but-
tell you how powerful that word is, political correctness. It has replaced in the liberals, left wing, it has replaced law.
Replace what? Law?
Law. The rule of law. Political correct has a greater impact in terms of their way of thinking than a law does. They're doing things because it's politically correct. Doesn't necessarily have to be law, a rule of law. In fact, politically
That's
correct.
a great point, Gary.
Well, think about that.
It is. That's a great point. Say that again, because maybe it. Say
Well,
that
okay,
again.
okay. We have
Listen to this.
our country is laws with rules, a rule
Yeah.
of law, right?
Yeah.
Now there's this law, there's this law. You may agree, may not agree with every law. Okay, that isn't the point, but it is a law. But then you have this other thing that's been replaced by the left-wing liberal. I call them communists, socialist communists. That's what it is.
I know you do.
Well, because that's what it is.
Yes.
Tell me where it isn't. You try to tell me where it is not a
It's
from the
socialistic. I'll say that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
and communism is one ownership, the government. You
One
go to
step
the
away.
government for
Yeah.
everything. Well, let me ask you, if you presently, right now, are on welfare and living somewhere, and receiving EBT cards. Well, who owns everything? Do you own anything?
You really don't own nothing. You
No.
own nothing.
So where are
That's
you?
brilliant.
What is communism about? Communism is one ownership, which is the government, which controls you. Socialism, the only difference between
Well, I know that, but
well, come on, you better believe it, because that's what it is, and people don't want to think that. Because if you look at socialism as an example, what is socialism? The difference with socialism, yeah, you could own your own this or own that, but you all get paid the same. When I say the same, in terms of they tell you what it is. If you're
Oh,
a doctor,
yeah,
if you're
that's-
this and that,
yeah.
okay, that's socialism. And it's controlled by who? It's controlled by the government.
of course.
Well, who's the government? It's not you. The government is this entity that controls everybody. Economically, dependency, and everything else. That is not what this country was founded on. This country was founded
That's what I was
on,
going to talk about today. Yeah.
yeah. Self destiny.
Yeah.
Which means, what does that mean? Well, so I guess it means I decide where I end up. If I end up on a gutter, or if I end up in a castle.
It's still a matter of choice.
It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of having the freedom to be whatever it is I want to be. Haven't you heard that when you were in school? Yeah, you could be whatever you want to be. Didn't you remember hearing that?
Oh, everybody.
You don't hear
everybody
that so much now.
It's because they want everybody to be the same.
They
That's the sad part of it.
Because
you know?
they want to control everything you do. Okay, now let's think about, because we've talked about that. Let's talk about enslavement. Isn't that enslavement?
Yes.
When you're living in a ghetto, and the reason why you live there is because there's no other place for you to get your check but right there.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of
Well,
course
so
it's a
so aren't
form.
you in a sense, aren't you a slave? You have no choice to do anything. In fact, if slavery was such a great thing, which is all 100% dependency, wouldn't everybody want to be a slave? Because that's what everybody that is right now. I'm looking at it from the liberal side of it. The left wing is that, hey, everybody wants to be a slave. Well, that is true with a certain segment of our population. They are choosing slavery over self-destiny. They are choosing being enslaved over being free. And that doesn't matter now. At one time we thought of it as only blacks, right? It's everybody. I don't care what
It
you
doesn't
are.
matter.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? So consequently, what we have here, what we're faced with, and what is happening is, yes, we have a choice to be one or the other. Why would you choose to be a slave? I don't care what color you are. That has nothing to do with that.
No, it's not a matter of choice for them.
Because there is no choice.
Yeah.
Only if they are given a choice and understood what the choice could be on the other side, which is happening right now.
Oh, yeah, I know. It is
Yeah.
happening.
And so what happens is, when we look at the Democratic Party, what it's become and what it represents represents evil, it represents vile, it represents hatred. Look what happened at the ballpark.
Oh, yeah, that's just one incident.
That's
and
just
there's
one
so
incident.
many, and it's so many tragic incidents, so many. I mean, I was thinking this week, about the two documents that govern this country, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution, and the preamble and how it leads into it. And I thought, the Founding Fathers, I think when they really put this thing together, all these brilliant minds, of course they thought about the future.
Sure.
They didn't know what was going to
Absolutely.
happen, but they tried to write it so that the document could survive
Right.
just about anything. And I think when you think about Donald Trump and you think about what we're doing, the Republican Party, the Conservative Party, and the direction this country's headed in,
Right.
It's based on all those principles, all of them.
100% rule of law, and
Yeah.
which is what the Constitution
Yeah.
is. That's a law, right? Yeah. And that's what people need to wake up to.
Absolutely, they do.
You see, and I don't care if you are I think we understand the difference. I mean, if you're on welfare because you have to be, because you're incapable, because of physical or what, or something.
Oh, of course there's exceptions.
I mean, everybody's
yeah,
going to,
yeah.
what doesn't want to see those people starving in the street? Of course not. And there's a place for that. And I would say, perhaps, let's just say there's 20% of our population of people that are totally incapable of taking care of themselves, no matter what the law was. Or
Probably,
what,
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that's
So,
probably fairly accurate.
are you
maybe
against taking
more.
care of those people? Of course not. You're in favor of taking care of that.
I know you're talking about the abusers of the system, which
Of
there's-
course.
which is probably 90%.
Well, and you're forced into it in the sense that once you get trapped into that, it's almost impossible to get out because there is no other opportunity for you unless you have something, an incentive to get out.
Yeah.
Okay, now also, where's all the crime primarily? It's committed by these people. Well, it's because the rule of law isn't being exercised to its fullest extent. So you get by with a political correct thing, and that supersedes in the minds of a liberal that are the leaders of this. It supersedes any law we have. No, well, that's just not political. Well, wait a minute. That's the law. No, but that's not politically correct. So what they get into the habit of, that's why you see the violations of law at the highest point in our government being exercised today by a group of people, which are primarily Democrats. And it's being exercised by that group of people because they absolutely do believe that political correctness is greater than the rule of law.
Makes sense, Gary. It does.
And so when you think about what's going on right now, and it's becoming more and more dramatic, these people do not want Trump to be president for main reason, and you mentioned it.
It's economics. It's economics.
Yeah,
This
because they're
whole
going to
thing-
lose trillions.
Yeah. Oh,
Trillions and
absolutely.
trillions.
Absolutely. I try to convince people, it's Hillary losing the election was nothing. That it's not about that
Yeah.
at all. It's about the money. That's what it's
Exactly.
about. The
Yeah.
money. Gary, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back saying 2 and 2.
Gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Okay, I'm back. My guest, of course, Mr. Gary Miguel. And Gary's on kind of a roll today.
Yeah.
And he's got some more stuff to talk to us about. So I'm going to just let him go ahead and enlighten us here.
Yeah, Ray. I mean, you see what's happening to the country, and what happened with that violence at that baseball park.
Yeah.
Those weren't just somebody out there playing baseball. Those were our senators and congressmen. Now think about that. I mean, it's not just some ordinary guy out there playing baseball. And that was an attack made by call it whatever you want, indoctrinated, deranged, or
Maybe, how about both?
how about both?
Yeah.
And then realizing that somebody else was saying the words, which became action.
Yeah.
And now, is that
Very
person-
well put, Gary.
Is
yeah.
the person saying the words, is he culpable? Of course. If I sit here and say something, fire in a theater, and I just said the word fire, but look at all the people that got trampled. Those are just words that I said. So words do have some meaning, and and let me tell you, these people are out there saying those words for a reason. I call them evil, vile people.
Sure.
What else do you call them?
Sure.
They have an agenda in mind, and it's not the agenda that you want. Believe me. And the American people have to wake up to that.
Oh, they're fighting tooth and nail. This whole mess, this whole
Yeah.
liberal mess that's going on across this country, to me is, I liken it to a great movie, Gone with the Wind. You know,
you said that.
your time is gone. I've said it before. Your time is gone. It's over. You know.
And thank God.
Yes, absolutely.
And the time for this to be gone is now.
Get on the bandwagon. You better get on the bandwagon.
The time to get on it is right now, because it is that time. And but let's look at the behind the scenes that's going on, because there's a lot of well, I should say,
tell us.
frustration right now, because here's this gal that got picked up for violating a security. She's had a top secret security. She's in jail. Why isn't Hillary Clinton?
Oh, oh, absolutely. I thought about that immediately, and so did everybody else.
And so did everyone else. Now, here's the deal on that, Ray. As long as this country thinks there's supposed to be two laws, one for them and one for somebody else, it's in trouble. Because you undermine the whole basis of what this country is a law country.
Absolutely, it had to be.
Okay, so then you ask the question, well, wait a minute, this doesn't add up at all. Here's this snowflake sitting there in jail, as well deserved, as well she should, and if a traitor in the old days would have been shot, then what is it that Hillary Clinton, who did tens of pounds of more, not in jail? So you start to, all of a sudden, you start to get to thinking, well, wait a minute, there's a law for them, law for me. Wait a minute, what happened to that lady with the blindfold and the scales?
Yeah.
How come that doesn't apply to this country anymore? Should it? You got to ask yourself, well, no. Well, why not? Well, the people with money, okay? No, and power. She has to face the same thing. I'm talking about she, meaning Hillary Clinton, and the whole gang of them. Okay, now, does it matter whether she's Democrat or not? No. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican or not. If you are in that, which I call the deep state uniparty, you
both.
are as, it's all of them.
It's everybody.
Yeah. Everybody has to abide by that law. Why does someone get off and someone doesn't? Okay, which brings you, the frustration gets in, well, wait a minute, why isn't something being done right now in terms of the Clinton Foundation, which is potentially the biggest crime ever committed in the history of the United States, including the mafia. It's greater than the mafia in terms of dollars.
Well, I hear it.
Okay? Now, how come there's no accountability? Well, what's happening is there will be.
Oh, yeah.
And it may not be right away or to my liking as far as when it's going to happen. But what is happening is this. The fake media is owned and controlled 100%, not 99%, 100%.
Every bit of it.
Every bit of it,
yeah.
right? By who? By the deep state. Who's the deep state? Well, it's the Republican establishment elites, the Democrat establishment
elite. Yeah.
Goes and those who actually are fighting for and are close to being a socialist communist style of government controlled by one, and that's the health. And you go to look at the manifesto. Number one would be health. Number two is education, which is, in our case, they have done that. It's indoctrination, because there's nothing that makes any common sense as you come out of there thinking you should be for something that's going to do away with something like the United States, which is the only country in the world that has the kind of democracy it has, or freedoms it has for the people. Okay, so then when you look at that and you say, well, why isn't it something being done right now? What's Trump doing? Let me tell you what Trump is doing. This is the part that I think is being missed. Trump knows that Russia deal that the media and the deep state was on, has still on. He knew there was nothing there, but he let it go. All the
I was thinking about that the other day.
Were you?
Yeah, I was, Gary. You're right on. I was just thinking about that. Tell him.
Okay, so what you have there is you have all the media with their fake, which is they're getting their orders from the deep state.
Oh, yeah.
The deep state is about to lose trillions and trillions of dollars plus power, because it's going to all go back to the American people.
Absolutely. That's it. That's what all this is about anyway.
That's all it's about.
It's all about that.
Nothing more than that. That's what got Trump elected.
Yeah.
Make America great again.
Yeah.
America first, which means American people first.
Absolutely.
Everything he does, he thinks of America first.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, and he's not owned by anybody, he's not controlled by anybody, doesn't need any more money or anything, so he has just one reason. He thinks that he's the only one in a position that can actually end what was heading into a Venezuela for the United States.
And he can.
And he can. Okay, so what he has here in the meantime, we have this fake media, the deep state, and everything involved with it over here, and all the attention is right here on that, right? Turn your TV on, turn your radio on. In the meantime, what has Trump done in the meantime? I've seen the list of everything that he has done and never gets any aggravation about it because they're too busy concentrated on what Trump
Absolutely.
already knows is a nothing burger.
Yeah.
So he says, well, let them dogs worry that bone.
Yeah.
You know, you've done that, haven't you?
Oh,
Throw a
of
bone
course.
out there at a dog and you go back 4 or 5 days later, that dog's still worrying that bone. Right? And that's what that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so in the
I understand
meantime,
that.
Trump goes over here. What did he do just today? Okay, Cuba. Okay. And you just go down the line. Okay, what's he do with the illegal immigrants and this? And my God, he's cut at 78% less people coming across. They don't talk about that. They don't mention that. And the thing is, they're so busy going to get him with this, and he already knows there's nothing there. He just lets them worry that bone. Meantime, he goes over here and starts doing what? Starts changing everything to where it makes America great again.
Yeah.
We're talking about 1 million jobs
Yeah.
created, just alone, businesses, and then trade deals that are no longer
Exactly.
just one way. They're
Yeah.
now
Both
two-
ways.
Both ways.
Yeah.
Okay, look what's going on around the world in terms of ISIS as an example.
Yeah, okay.
Look what's going on with that. Look what's going on in the Mideast as far as those countries getting together and solving their problems.
First president ever to
think about that.
bring the Mideast together like
Right,
he's done.
right.
You know, first one ever to do that.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Do that.
And then you go and look and see what's happening in this country alone, what he has done and is doing, and nobody bothers him. He just goes on and does it. Every one of his promises, everything that he said at one of his rallies, boom, check.
When he's
check,
through with all
check.
this, I'm nominating him for the Nobel Peace Prize.
You know, and of course, you know, he's not crooked enough for that. You got to be crooked to get that. If you look and see who the last Nobel Peace Prize was. So anyway,
There are some exceptions. You're right, though.
Anyway, in the meantime, here's all everybody concentrating on this. Over here, the nothing burger,
Uh-huh.
which he knows is let him go there, let him go with that. Okay, now here's this Comey, but in the meantime, what does he do? He does get rid of the FBI, who is a crooked son of a gun, corrupt
Comey.
as all hell, right? He
You-
gets rid of him.
Well, you didn't see last week. You didn't see my show last week. I said, Comey, fiction or fiction? I always got a response from that.
Well, Comey now has got to fight for his life, right? Mm-hmm. So I asked the question, this guy Mueller, what in the world is he doing in there when you got him and Comey are like this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's by design.
Of course it was.
And the reason why he goes and this Mueller and this Rosenstein, or what do they have for their attorneys? They're all Democrat donors. And so then you sit there, initially I did the same thing. I sit there and say, well, wait a minute, something's going on here. Why is it you have all these Democrats that are on that team, you know, those congressional investigations, which is nothing but dog and pony shows, has been ever
Always
since
have been.
Benghazi.
Absolutely.
That's just a
Absolutely.
diversion.
Benghazi.
Well, Trump doesn't care. He just lets them go over
Sure.
there. Meantime, he's over here getting what's good for America, right? And he just, because he knows there's nothing come of it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing about it with Mueller, the liberals, they like that because that's what he is.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a friend of Comey. Well, at one time, the liberals, they didn't want Comey. They wanted him fired, right?
Oh,
How
yeah,
come
they
all of a
did.
sudden now they want him? Oh, man, you shouldn't fire Comey. Boy, they say that 6 months or 8 months ago. So they're they're literally in a tailspin. Hey, have you ever seen a wasp net on the side of
Oh
the
yes,
building?
I have.
Yeah, and then you go and knock it down.
Oh yeah, we did that.
All
Yeah.
right, and then you go back, and those bees are just around. They don't know what. That's just exactly what's
Yeah.
going on with the Democrats right now. Okay, so he's got these Democrat, and you say, well, wait a minute, why does he have these Democrat? Can you imagine the uproar if he had Republicans?
Oh my goodness! It always comes back to that. And
The
it's
point
different,
is, this
you know.
is going to go to nothing anyway.
Yeah.
What if he had Republicans? Oh man, let the Democrats play with this, worry this bone. Meantime, I'm over here and I'm making America great again.
Sure.
That's the diversion. And that is what Trump knows. Okay, now you got Sessions sitting back there. You think he just sits there at home and watches TV? No, he's there working. He got that.
Oh,
They're
it's
working at U8 down the road. In the meantime, we talked about this before. Trump's letting out enough rope. Everybody got twisting and twisting and twisting. Look what happened to Comey.
yeah.
He twisted
He's just-
himself
yeah.
into a
Oh,
knot,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
and he became exposed.
Yeah.
Right now, you've got this investigative group that's going on and on with that, and who in the world cares
Yeah.
if you're a Donald Trump? You don't care.
Yeah.
You already know that. Just
Oh,
let him
yeah.
worry that. Meantime, you go over here, and you're getting this done, this done, this done. Are you getting any aggravation over here? No, you never even see it on TV. You don't even see it. In the meantime, oh, boom, he's done this, he's done that. You go through the list, and all you have to do is just go and listen to one of his rallies. There's not one thing that he has said in those rallies that he's not doing, have already done, or
Absolutely.
is.
I'm on top of it all the time. You're right, and I tell people that he's done everything that he said he
Right.
would do.
Right.
You know,
Right.
You know, I just wish that the people understood more about what you and I are talking about.
Yeah.
About what the bottom line is, why all this is happening. you
Right.
know, because it is money.
It is money, and it's trillions, and its own
Oh.
families, I mean, that's entrenched in power, about to lose a lot, about to lose it all.
Gone
Yeah.
with the wind.
And I'm telling you, I think that there's so many things that are being evident that we just can't. If you were, I'm talking about if you were a liberal, would you, if you was a liberal or a Democrat liberal, I mean, would you condone somebody holding somebody's head up with blood?
No.
Of course not. Your decency would take over, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
At some point, you start getting a decency. Okay, and then you got somebody there that is talking about this shooting, for instance, at the ballpark, and then there's people that are sitting there saying, "Well, oh yeah, hooray for that." Doesn't your decency start taking over a little bit?
Of course it does.
You know.
Absolutely.
And then they've got a play of the assassination of Donald Trump.
Oh, I heard about that. I refuse to
But
even talk about it.
but wouldn't your decency start to
Well,
take
sure.
over?
Absolutely.
And pretty soon you say, well, you know what? I really am not one of those people. I just happen to be a name only a Democrat.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you say to yourself, well, why am I being such a fool? Why am I being a useful idiot?
Well, like you said, it's starting to, it's happening. They're starting to wake up.
And I think they're starting to wake up, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do, buddy. I do. You know, Gary, we're going to take another little break here. Boy, it flies when you're here. And, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in, say, 2 and 2.
Lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say.
Okay, I'm back, and let me remind you that if you're watching me now, don't forget I'm live. You can call in, you can talk to Gary and I. You can talk about anything you want. You know, mostly, you know, we try to keep it as political as we can because we would like to be able to inform you what we know and perhaps somehow help you. Gary's got some other good stuff to finish here with.
Yeah, and you know, in summary of this part about for a lot of the people out there are frustrated because things aren't happening fast enough. Well, it's all by design the way it is going, and then just keep in mind that this Mueller deal, which people can't figure out what the world is Mueller doing in there. Well, he's the perfect guy, along with Comey, to keep the attention, and with Democrat attorneys, because otherwise the Democrats would be, they can't get all over it. If it's Democrats, how can you get all over it? If it was Republican, oh my God, they'd be all over that. So basically what that is, and just think of it this way in a simple form, it's a dog worrying a bone. What's on that bone? There's no meat.
You know, Trump is smarter than a lot of people
Well, of
give him
course.
credit for.
Well, and his people he's got, they're banning those. They got a strategy there. Okay, now look at
Surrounding
that
himself
dog on
with
that
brilliant
bone.
people. Yeah.
They've
Makes sense,
been
Gary.
wearing it for 8 months. There's no meat on the bone, and Trump knows that. Meantime, Trump's over here barbecuing steaks.
I love it.
You know what I mean? And he's sitting over there and letting that end of it, which includes just turn your TV on at night.
Sure.
I don't care what
It doesn't matter.
what
It doesn't
alphabet
matter.
channel you turn on.
It does not
It
matter.
does not matter. What are they going to be on? They're going to be on that, right? In the meantime, go look and see what actually got signed this week alone. One of the big ones, I think it's probably one of the biggest of all that I've seen come down the pike, has been the idea that we're going to this, or encouraging this vocational schools and skills for people. So they don't need to be going to college. College is a scam. It's an indoctrinate. It has become that. Let's
Oh
put it
yeah,
that way.
it has become.
It has become at one time, no, but now it is an absolute scam, and they got this idea of everybody should have a college education. That's a bunch of baloney. That's nothing but to have the taxpayers put money into that thing. What do the students do? They have to borrow the money. They're going to owe it
You
at
gave
the end.
The great analogy you gave about the kid that gets out and goes to college and it accumulates a student loan
Right.
into the thousands, as opposed to the kid that goes out and becomes a
Exactly.
welder.
Well, in fact, what we're finding, I've been doing some research because I believe in that vocational. Man, these people are going out and becoming electricians, they're becoming welders, and also what they're doing is working. In fact, they had a blue collar guy he's a billionaire now, and Trump had him back there on this.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he wears a
Hat?
a hat, just like
Looks like he's right off the farm.
oh, just like he's come right off of a right off a payloader, you know. In fact, he even had some dirt on him. But anyway, this is the type of thing that to learn the skills to do the job, because these college kids are coming out, they have zero skills.
Oh, I know that.
They can't drive a truck, they can't drive a tractor, they can't drive a backhoe, they can't weld, they can maybe change a light bulb, but they got a degree. And they don't have. I got a relative right now, just graduated, mechanical engineer, from a very prestigious school. He doesn't have a job. And my sister says, "Well, he's got to find a job." I says, "Well, does he have it?" "Well, he's working at that summer job he had last year." I says, "What skills does he have?" In his case, he doesn't even drive a car.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, he's limited.
Of course, you're limited.
Yeah.
And it's all this college thing is a bunch of, I call it a bunch of baloney. Now, let me classify that, or clarify it in the sense that, yeah, I believe it's necessary for certain things. Are you going to be a doctor, an MD? Yeah, well, yeah, that's what, well, yeah, okay. That's for you. And among some other
Yeah.
things,
Oh, yeah.
obviously.
I know what you're saying.
But boy, I'll tell you, when you're just ramming them through, all of them coming out of there with $100 and some $1,000 debt, most of them can't pay it, living in their mother's basement. Who ends up stuck with the bill? The American taxpayer.
Oh, of course, it always comes back to that.
And then you got this person that becomes confused or whatever, and they become dependent down the road. They don't have any incentive. Now,
You talked about the trade schools a long time ago.
Absolutely.
You talked about that
Absolutely.
6 months ago.
well, like this kid that I was talking to you about, that welder that's got his own company now and everything. My Lord, he is so far ahead of his schoolmates who went to college. Okay, but let's say, for instance, that he decides to go to college. He's got plenty of time
Yeah.
to go to college. It's just like an athlete. Let's say you're a superb athlete, baseball player. You hit home runs and you do everything in the world, and you're right out of high school. You're a phenom. and you come out of there and you got a major league club that wants to sign you and offer you a lot of money in that time, okay? You'd be surprised that there are people going to tell you, you better get your college education first. You got a scholarship over here, and you better get your college education first.
Yeah, they tell you that.
They tell you that,
Most
right?
people tell you that, yeah.
Most people tell you that. Most people are wrong. 80% of them
Oh,
are.
heck yeah, I know they are. I agree with you totally.
Ray, my advice to you, get the money. You got plenty of time to go to college.
Yeah.
But what happens if you do go to college and you don't sign for that paycheck, which will set you up? You got plenty of time to get smart.
Yeah.
Okay, let's play ball right
That
now.
makes sense, buddy. It
Okay.
makes sense. I'm telling you, it does.
Because what can
Yeah.
happen to you, Ray? You can go to college and receive an injury to your arm, something which you'll never be able to sign, and you never got
Or
the
you can
money.
go and play now and go to college later, and
Absolutely.
plus you'll be a little more mature.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
And there's nothing wrong with going back to college. Says, well, I promised my mother that I
Yeah.
would get it. That's fine. That's a good reason to go to college.
I thought it was.
Absolutely. And so my point is that if you get out of there and you got a chance to go to vocation school, learn a skill. It could be, I don't care what it is, but you learn this skill and you develop this demand for that skill because you know how to do something greater than changing a light bulb, which is what's coming out of there
You're
right
right.
now.
This was a big one that he signed today.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's real big.
It is absolutely tremendous, and they figure that alone is going to increase a million people jobs here almost
my
instantly.
gosh.
Because now you got a kid, you got a business. Okay, you have a business like your business. There's a lot of technical things that's involved in there. Plumbing, isn't there? And there's electricians,
Sure.
and there's backhoe.
Oh, absolutely.
There's all kinds of things setting one of those up. How in the world are you going to hire somebody that's not skilled?
You can't.
You can't, right?
Yeah,
I don't care how many.
sure.
Do you care how many degrees he has? Or
No, I
what?
just want him to come in and do the job.
Yeah, exactly. Do you ask about any of that? No. But here's the thing: what if this guy comes out of a vocational school that taught him how to do all those skills? Who's the most valuable to you? The guy with the college degree in his hand, or the guy with the pipe wrench in his hand?
Guy with the pipe wrench.
Every
Absolutely.
time. Every time. So that's the common sense. Okay, and that's my point about Trump has taken an absolute common sense approach to the whole thing.
He always has from the get-go. Like we say every week, we just wish people would wake up and see what's going on in this
Well, like you say, there are people waking up, but it's slow to come by.
Yeah.
And I look at it, and I do get a little impatient, but I got, just like I was with
natural.
this deal as far as well, how come Hillary's not in jail? How come this guy's not in jail? How come they didn't?
And I'm on the same page you are.
Yeah.
The same
Then I
page.
got to thinking, well, wait a minute. Trump's just letting them worry that bone, and they
You
just
and I
keep,
talked about that.
and they remember we talked about
Yeah.
way before Comey.
Oh, yeah.
He indicted himself.
Yes, he did.
Can you imagine somebody that crooked head of the FBI? I mean,
Tells you
it's,
about widespread corruption.
and here we are. Boy, we think pretty high of the FBI when you get, boy, the FBI is paying attention to something. And here we are with a guy that's an absolute crook.
Gary, it looks like we've come to the end here, buddy. I need you to say, yeah, you're going to come back.
I'll
Everybody's
be back, yeah.
Great. We'd love that.
And I hope your eyes better.
Oh, thank you.
But,
Yeah.
but I like those dark glasses.
I wanted everybody to know this is not on purpose. Anyway, like I say every week, and I encourage everybody to go up and talk. I talked to 6, I think, this week. I try to keep track how many. So almost one a day, I think. I think there may have been one day when I talked to 2 and one day when I didn't talk to any. But walk up to a policeman and tell them how much we appreciate their efforts, for minimum pay. They put their lives on the line for us. And it's kind of nice, I think, if we walk up and tell them, say hi to them and tell them that we appreciate what they do. Okay? Now, we've got, we're of course on Fridays, every Friday at 3. So let me say this. Until we joyously meet again next Friday at 3 o'clock, heaven's blessings.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave
CentralValleyTalk.com